So I request everyone that for the smooth conduct of this session, please keep yourself muted throughout the session. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, please put down your queries in the chat box without unmuting as of now till the time the trainers or we are speaking. And one by one, we will be taking up your questions towards the end. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's discuss what clinical research and clinical data management is. And I'm pretty sure that the people who have joined here today, they have explored at their own level what this is about. And most of you must be having quite a knowledge on what clinical research is being, seeing this pandemic for now near 2 years. Okay, so to give you an overview, clinical research are basically, these are investigations, these are experiments which are conducted on human subjects. So human subjects could be patients, it could be healthy volunteers, as in we do in a phase 1 clinical trial. And one of the most important question is that why do we need clinical research? Why do we need to do clinical trials? It's but obvious that in order to bring any new drug, any new vaccine in the market, we cannot directly give it to the people. We cannot directly market in the society, because of the simple reason that we don't know how exactly our product is going to affect the human subjects, how is it going to affect the population at large. So it is very important, and it is one of the requirements which has been put forth by the regulatory bodies, that the medications, the medicines or the vaccines or the devices, they have to undergo a series of investigations, a series of trial and error kind of thing, where it has to be tested on a smaller population. And once it has been tested on a smaller population and we have promising results, when we have results which show that yes, the drug works fine, it is safe, then it will be marketed, then it will be available to the public as a whole. So, clinical research are basically investigations in human subjects that generate two important things. One, the safety data, which means the adverse events, the side effects which could happen, and the efficacy data. Efficacy simply means, in a layman language, that how well your product is working. If you are taking a painkiller, is it reducing your pain? If you are taking an antipyretic, is it reducing the fever? Okay. Safety is if it is reducing the fever or if it is subsiding the pain, is it causing some side effects? Is it causing some undesirable serious side effects? So in clinical research, we understand, we explored both these important parameters. Okay. Now, the the clinical trials cannot start suddenly. It will always start when we have sufficient, when we have substantial data which has been collected from the animal studies, from the non-clinical studies, because the regulatory authority, they do not permit the use of the new drugs, the vaccines directly on human subjects. So they at any level will need a data which shows that it has been tested in the animal models, it has been tested prior in the laboratories, and based on those studies, the drugs are safe and efficient enough to be taken forward and tested on the human subjects. So in order to conduct a clinical trial, we need an experimental unit, which means we need patients or we need volunteers, which could be healthy also. We need an intervention. Intervention simply means the new drug or the new molecule or the new vaccine or the medical device using which we are going to conduct the clinical trial, which means we are exploring this intervention. We are exploring whether my intervention works fine or it does not work fine. And last, we have evaluation. Evaluation means to observe the outcomes, which means if I administer a product, if I give an antibiotic, what is the outcome? Is it subsiding the growth of microorganisms? Is it working efficiently or not? So that is my evaluation. Okay, so in any clinical trial, you will come across these three key terms. Now, when we have a look at the entire drug discovery to the marketing stage, the entire process takes roughly around 12 to 15 years. These are numbers quoted here. There could be variations in these numbers, but in general, we say that a drug or any new molecule, it takes around 12 to 15 years, right from the discovery stage to the stage when it is marketed, when it is available to the public as a whole. So we start with a drug discovery where the new molecules are discovered. And again, discovery has a lot of steps included. Then it moves further to the preclinical testing where it is tested on the animal models. And once we have sufficient substantial data from the animal models, then the sponsors or the pharmaceutical company who is planning to do the clinical trials, they submit an application which is known as IND application. Once the IND application is submitted, the regulatory bodies, they review this application, and based on their review, if they find that every important information is there in the application and there is sufficient proof coming from the animal studies, then they give their permission to do a phase 1 clinical trial. Phase 1 clinical trials are done on healthy volunteers, except there are certain studies where we do it on patients as well. Then we move ahead to the phase 2 clinical trials, then phase 3. After a phase 3 clinical trial is done, we have to submit yet another application to the regulatory bodies, which is known as new drug application. After the new drug application is submitted, we might do an additional phase 3B study where we are collecting some add-on information. This add-on information will also be submitted to the regulatory authority, and phase 3B studies are conducted till the time the new drug application is under review, because new drug application review takes time. It is not 10 days, 15 days or 1 month task. It may take around 6 months to 9 months or maybe an year. Okay. So till the time the NDA is getting reviewed and eventually approved, the pharmaceutical companies may do a phase 3B clinical trials. And lastly, we have the phase 4, which is the post-marketing studies. So you can see the entire process is taking time. And since this is done on a smaller population, it is also very important that the drug, once it is into the market, the data coming from a larger population needs to be evaluated. There you have the role of pharmacovigilance, and my colleague will be talking about it. Coming to the people who are involved in the clinical trial industry, so basically the entire clinical trial industry is a teamwork. It is not a single man task. It requires inputs, it requires coordination from sponsors who are the pharmaceutical company conducting the clinical trials. There are the investigators, that is the doctors who actually administer the product and observe how the product is behaving in the patients. Then we have the patients or the subjects, because in order to test a product, you obviously need people on whom it will be administered and tested. So a subject is also one of the important, you can say, a chain in the, or an important loop in the entire clinical trial chain. Then we have monitors, or we also, many of you know them as CRAs, clinical research associates. So these are the people who are going to monitor the data, who are going to review the data when they come to the trial sites. We have the ethics committee who are responsible for ensuring that the patient safety is not compromised at any point of time when the trial is being conducted. And lastly, we have the regulatory authority who ensure that the trial is being conducted as per the regulations, as per the guidelines, and in an ethical manner in the country. Okay, so for our country, we have the CDSCO, the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which is responsible for ensuring that the trials are conducted in an ethical manner. Now, since we are talking about patients, we are talking about humans, there are a lot of guidelines which overpower this entire process. We have guidelines like ICGCP, that is the good clinical practices. We have the guidelines which are specific to United States, which is 21 CFR. We have our own Indian guidelines like the ICMR, Indian GCP, the new drug and clinical trial rules, which has replaced the Schedule Y. And in order to conduct any clinical trial, any investigator, any sponsor, they need to follow two things. One, the ICGCP. Second, the country specific regulations. Okay. Here are the list of few regulatory bodies like the USA, we have US FDA, India, CDSCO, Europe, we have EMA. So there are a lot of regulatory authorities, and you may come across different names as per the country where these regulatory authorities are situated. This is a glimpse of the clinical trial process. So we start from clinical development where we develop different documents, then we prepare the protocol, then we move ahead and select the sites or the hospitals where the clinical trial are conducted. And once we select those sites or the hospitals, the clinical trial begins. Once the trial begins, we have to ensure that continuous monitoring is done because a lot of data will be collected and these data needs to be free of error. So we have a step which is known as query resolving, or we have a step which can be known as data clarification needs to be done. So there we have the role of clinical data management, and at the end the entire study needs to be properly closed, the database lock has to be done, and eventually the final report or the clinical study report needs to be prepared and submitted to the regulatory authority and published to the scientific publications. Coming to the role of clinical data management. So basically the role of clinical data management is to ensure that all the data, all the information which is collected during the clinical trial process, that is a correct information, that is an accurate information, a logical information, a consistent information. And for this purpose, we use a lot of softwares. We use Oracle Clinical, we have ClinSoft, we have Rave, we have Open Clinica. So there are a lot of softwares which may be used by different companies, by different vendors. Today I will be showing you the software that we use for the training purpose, that is the ClinSoft. Before that, let's have a look at the growth ladder. So the growth ladder in both clinical research and clinical data management industry is tremendous, because you may enter the industry as a research coordinator or a research executive or a research associate, but the scope of growth is you can move ahead, you can progress, you can become a CTA, you can become a senior CTA, you could become a CRA level 1, CRA level 2, and you can progress till the level of a project manager. And all this is done in a shorter span of time as compared to the other domains or the other industry. So before I hand over the session to my colleague, I will be sharing the screen and showing you the two softwares that we use for the training purpose to the students. One is the ETMF software, which is the Clinovo. So I just log in and show you a glimpse of how this software looks like. So this is basically a software or a tool which is widely used by the industry nowadays to manage all their data, all their documents which are collected during the clinical trial process. And since now we are working remotely, every process is being done in a remote manner, it equally becomes important that now the things are handled in the e-systems. So this is one of the e-system, that is electronic trial master file. And during our training sessions, we train the students on creating the documents and processing the documents in the electronic trial master file. Okay, so this is how the folder may look. This is based on the study which the students are processing currently. We have the repository where we can create a lot of projects, and in this one platform we can add as many studies as we want. We can add multiple studies, 10, 20, 50 studies together, and manage everything from one single place. So for example, these are the different folders which are created. So we have folders for trial management, central trial documents, regulatory, IRB documents, site management, IP and trial supplies, safety reporting, documents related to the laboratories, third parties, that is the vendors, data management, and the last one, that is the 11th one, is the statistics. So basically, this is as per the DIA reference model, and the same reference model is incorporated in this training platform that we use. From here, we can add documents, we can add a new folder if it is needed for the study, we can add a placeholder, we can copy documents, we can file the plan, we can even move one document from one place to another. Say, for example, if you want to move a document from trial management to, say, a central trial document, we can easily move it from here. Okay. When you click on add document, it will open a page where you can add documents, and documents like PDF, Word files, Excel files can be added. So we just need to fill in the proper details which is required, and we can um, add the documents here. Similarly, there are a lot of systems inbuilt where we can check for quality, we can check for queries in the documents, we can check whether the documents or whether the study is running as per the timelines or not, because in the clinical trial industry it is very important that timelines are followed. So on the left hand, we have a lot of drop down boxes which can be used for the study. Coming to the second that we use, that is the ClinSoft. So ClinSoft is used for two purposes. One, it is used for data entry. Second, it is used for the generation and clarification of data queries. That is, it is used for clinical data management purpose as well. So this is the dashboard. And on the dashboard here on my left hand side, I have few icons, and based on this icon, um, create, upload and download documents. I can create users, I can add credentials for site, I can also check whether the users are doing the task properly. I can check, and I can even stop the access. I can change the access for a person through manage users. Here we have the data entry where we have the subject list. Again, the subject list that you can see here, it is based on the cases that the students are processing currently. So just I'm opening one student patient case. So this is how your page will look like. So we have again different sections to add in the data and add in the information for the particular patient. So once we fill in the information, the data can be saved and submitted. Eventually, when all this data is saved, submitted, then your data management team will kind of review it and generate queries if there is some discrepancy or if there is some error in the data. So that's all from my end. And I would now request my colleague, Mr. Gaurav Grover, to take over the session and brief you all on the pharmacovigilance.
Thank you, Dr. Vipra. I hope I am audible to everyone.
Yes, Mr. Gaurav.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me start to share my screen. 1 second. So I hope you're able to see my slide deck right now.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, as Dr. Vipra has also explained earlier in her session on clinical trials, safety in medicines and per se, I would say safety for all the various, whether these are medicines or devices or vaccines, the intent is to make sure that these are maintained for safe use in all the patients across the world. So any new drug that comes out, the aspects are related to the safety of that particular product. Now, when we talk of pharmacovigilance, it is again derived from these two words, which are Greek pharmaco and vigilare. So they stand for the medicine and to keep a watch or to keep an alert. Now, this is highlighted from the fact that we all know about the COVID pandemic that is existing and the newer vaccines that are being tried, whether it is the Vaxzevria or the Covishield that is there in use in India, or there are other vaccines by Pfizer, by Covaxin, which is another Indian manufacturer, and various other newer vaccines that are being developed by Indian pharmaceuticals, like Zydus is coming up with another vaccine where there is a phase 3 trial running. Now, the aspects in a trial always focus on the efficacy as well as the safety. So these are two interrelated and components which cannot be separated, and they cannot be looked at in silos. So, as per the definition of the World Health Organization, the science and the activities related to detection or the assessment and trying to understand and prevent the adverse effects or any other drug related problems. So that is what is pharmacovigilance, right? And so we at Cliniminds would also focus on training you on pharmacovigilance aspects related to the safety. So there is this one famous quote by Dr. Vladimir Lepakin that he had given in Geneva in 2005, saying that dying from a disease is unavoidable. However, dying from a adverse drug reaction is unacceptable. So that is the basis for the development of new drugs. That is the basis for coming up with monitoring and analyzing these events so that we can prevent their occurrence. Now, if you would look at the statistics of these adverse drug reactions, medicines are supposed to save lives and relieve the suffering, but then almost 5% of all the hospital admissions are because of these side effects. And that in terms of deaths, if you would see in Europe itself, would be close to about 0.2 million, or as you will say 200,000, right? So that is something that will in turn cause losses to the extent of 250 million to 2.5 billion euros per year, with in terms of all these people who are admitted and who have these side effects are actually dying, and they are a productive population for the country, right? So then that brings us to the aspects of having pharmacovigilance as a life cycle across the development of the product. So whether it is in the development phase or in the post-marketed phase. When we say development phase, so what Dr. Vipra had already discussed with you about the clinical trial aspect. But then when we start to market a drug, there is a whole not new, population that is exposed to newer risks, and you would notice those only when they are reaching to far more number of people. Always these trials that are planned and that are conducted are in smaller subset of patients. You would have, at a maximum in a randomized trial, you may have about 100 patients. But then how would you note events that are very rare, say, one in 10,000 or one in 100,000? So those cannot be detected in a clinical trial, and you have to rely on the post-marketed activities of monitoring the events, right? So whether it is in terms of looking at individual cases or analyzing them on a period So you have individual case safety reports, you have aggregate data analysis, where all these individual cases are again analyzed on a period basis and then submitted to the regulators worldwide, depending upon the local country requirements and the regulations. And you are also required to do time and again signal detection. So this signal detection would involve various looking at things that stand out from the background, where there is a drug that is in some way related to the event that is happening, any unexpected drug safety problem which is because of a new reaction or drug reaction. So change in either the frequency of that event, or maybe it is a altogether new occurrence. So all those things are looked at in aspects of the signal detection. Then you also have an important component in pharmacovigilance, which is risk management plan. So risk management is done even in the trial phase, and it is also done in the post-marketed phase. So in the trials, you would have again looking at the safety information that you get from your studies, from your sponsored trials. You would try to collect that and analyze the information. And in post-marketed scenario, you will rely not just on the post-marketed reports or the spontaneous individual reports that you get, but also on the various other studies that have been done in the past, whether it was in preclinical or in the clinical phase, right? And also you would rely on the various signal detection activities which are done by major databases. So if we talk of the global database, you have the World Health Organization global database, that is the WGBase. And then you have various authority databases like the FAERS in US or the UDRA Vigilance database in Europe, right? So again, when we talk of organizations that play a key role in pharmacovigilance, so WHO has been instrumental in setting up a lot of requirements for pharmacovigilance and also setting up the international drug monitoring program for the first time in world. And like I said, the global database that is maintained for the adverse drug reactions by WGBase, which is again a database, global database of all the adverse reactions happening across various countries. So those are put into that database by again an organization associated with WHO, the Uppsala Monitoring Center, that is based out of the Uppsala Center, and in various other organizations play an important role. Again, the guidelines on various regulations which are existing in the world right now are derived from the ICH requirements. So these ICH requirements have been put in together by initially three main countries: Europe, US, and Japan, and their regulators along with their manufacturer associations. But now this is widely accepted. So ICH is now spread across the world, and there are again close to 17 members, and there are 32 observers, which also includes India. So this is a widely accepted guideline and has been the basis for the development of regulations in the countries. Also, CIOMS was set up by WHO in collaboration with UNESCO initially, and all the various guidelines that were developed by CIOMS again have been adapted by ICH, the International Council for Harmonization. So all these organizations, along with the International Society of Pharmacovigilance, are playing a key role in the pharmacovigilance. And as Dr. Vipra had already discussed about various regulatory authorities worldwide, so there are again, the US Federal Drug Authority, the FDA, or the European Medicines Agency, or in India, we have the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, CDSCO. You have again Therapeutic Goods and Administration in Australia, and so we have various regulators who are working together to ensure the safety of medicines in their territory. Okay, now again, is pharmacovigilance the right option for you? Yes, it is. Why? Because if you would look at the global growth of the pharmacovigilance market, it has been growing exponentially. right from 2016, and it is like, targeted to 2027. It is expected to grow more, right? So the compound annual growth rate again is 6.4%. From 2019 to 2027, and this was even before the pandemic had happened. So you can imagine that now, with the requirement of medicines and with the requirement of safety of those newer drugs, you would have this growing even faster. Okay, if you look at your growth organizationally, you can grow leaps and bounds, and the limit can be, as much as you grow up the ladder, you would have higher income in the brackets with, starting position till even, in bigger companies, people have grown from the ranks and reached up to the levels of the director or the CEOs of the companies, right? uh, let's look at the components of our training course at Clivi Minds. So we will be focusing again on all the aspects of pharmacovigilance, which would be right from the basic training and the overview to the basis of the mechanism and the pharmacology behind, then the documents that you are required to make as companies for pharmacovigilance, various regulatory agencies and their guidelines would be looked at. We also focus on how to prepare you for an audit or inspection from the regulators or from the third party audits and from various other company audits. Also, ICSRs, which are the individual case safety cases, we will tell you how to process them in our own database. So there are various databases which are used across the industry. We would also discuss on those and the various ways on how you can process cases. Similarly, again, the MEDRA coding in safety databases, which is again a dictionary for regulatory activities. It's a medical dictionary for regulatory activities on how you would code any drug reaction that is reported to you or any drug investigations, laboratory tests, all those things which are related to a particular individual case. Again, we would also tell you how to write a standard narrative for a report and how to perform the assessment of the relationship that is called as causal relationship or the causality. And we will also teach you on the literature searching and the processing of the cases. Also, it would focus on the aggregate reports that we discussed initially. So the aggregate reports of various individual cases, how they are prepared, what are the formats, signal detection, how you are supposed to do signals as per the guidelines, and the various risk management plan requirements in Europe. Now this has become a mandation. So every company who is launching a new product in Europe, whether it is a generic company or an innovator company, is required to do risk management. And then we will also tell you about the latest vaccine pharmacovigilance, which is the talk of, again, almost all health domains right now, and medical device or the medical vigilance related to material vigilance, as we call it. And we will also look at data mining of various databases, safety databases, and the social media analytics. So these are all the various components that are covered in our training program. We will also give you hands-on experience of our safety database, and you will be able to process the cases, again, how you would do it in companies. And we have sessions from our industry experts with extensive knowledge on the pharmacovigilance industry. So that will also help you in understanding the nuances of pharmacovigilance. There will be more emphasis on practical learning. And also along with that, we will tell you about the theory, we will train you, and we will explain you giving examples, live case studies. And we are training students not just to, our intent is not just to train them to get jobs, but we want them to become better professionals who can excel in that field. So the course material is always up to date as per the industry standards and the regulatory timelines and the regulations. So our demo on the safety database is again on one of the databases that we use called as Safety Easy. I would be showing you that. Okay. And like in the case processing, we would have some steps involved. That is how you would create a case, how you would book a new case, how you would do data entry of the cases, and the quality review. So on checking of the case, how that is processed. And there are various databases which are used. So Udra Vigilance has its own database, which is EMA, maintained by EMA. Again, US FDA has FAERS, and then like I said, WHO has Vigibase, which is being provided as an access to all the member countries of WHO International Drug Monitoring. So even in India, the Pharmacovigilance Program of India, which is being run by the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission in Ghaziabad, they have an access to the Vigibase. So whatever cases are reported from India and which go to the drug authority are in turn then forwarded via the Vigibase database to the WHO global database. Again, all other company databases, we will have a review and we will tell you how Argus, or there is another database called as ErisG, how they work and what are their functionalities, and then we will give you hands-on on the safety easy, right? So let me share with you the quickly how our database looks like and how we will be able to train you on that, how our students are processing cases on that. Okay, let me stop to share for a quick second. And let me know when you can see my screen. Okay, is my screen visible to you all?
Yes, Mr. Gaurav.
Okay, thank you, Rajit. So I'm starting to log in into the database. So it will ask you for, and every student would be given a unique password and a login ID again, because there is a requirement in global regulations about, having a secure system. And again, just a moment, I believe that. So like I was explaining, that every database has to be secure, and the data that we process for the safety of patients, that is a confidential data. So the regulations and global regulations, specifically the US regulations 21 CFR part 11, say that we have to have a system where all the information should be secure. So that is why companies rely on these databases, safety databases, for entering, processing cases and sending them electronically. So now all these authorities are enabled to receive new individual cases as electronic submissions, and we need to process them in a database. So not everyone should be doing any change in a case. So all these cases will be maintained in the database. Again, I just wanted to show you that the requirement is that you should have a case history or a audit trail, which is that you should be able to track who has done what in the case. So if you would see, I can see when the person who has done those changes, when the version has been created, and what are the changes that have been done across the time, various fields that have been entered in the case. So when these have been done, that is possible using this database. And that is why all these safety databases have this functionality of having a audit trail and also being able to see what are the changes done in the case. Okay, when we want to create a new case, so I just showed you one example of audit trail. I could have also opened an existing case, but rather I would want to tell you how to create a new case. So when we click on a new case, you have various fields available. And so when I've clicked on this one new case, there will be again for a case to be considered valid, I need to have the details of the patient. So which would be again his initials or his date of birth, or the various weight, height, other demographics of the patient. So those will be entered in the patient characteristics. I would get to write maybe if the initials of the patient are known to me, or I have asked it but I don't know it, I can type as asked but unknown. Or if I have not asked it, I can say not asked. If it is still unknown, I can just write it as unknown. Or if I know, suppose it is Gaurav Grover, which is me, and then I can take the initials as GG, right? So you can write the initials. If you have a hospital record number, those can be entered. We can enter the any special record number. If it is a part of a trial, if the patient is from a study, then I can include the randomization date and the inclusion date. Or if there are any actions taken in the study, so if the patient has been withdrawn, or it is delayed, or there is no action taken, so I can accordingly select that if it is a trial related information. Similarly, then I can enter, like I said, the gender of the patient. So whether he's a male or a female or a transgender or a intersex, whatever, we can write that. If it is known, fine. If it is not known, we can select it as unknown. If we have asked it but still we don't know it, so we can say that asked but unknown. And if we have not asked it, then also we can take that as not asked. So we have other parameters like height and weight, and then you have the date of birth that you can select via this calendar. You have the age, which we can type within various units in terms of years or months or weeks also for smaller infants. And then you have the age group. So it could be an adult, it could be a fetus, it could be a neonate, it could be a infant, it could be an adolescent, it could be an elderly. So I can select any of the age groups. And then I have the option to select the ethnicity, the race, whether he's an Asian or an African, or again a white, Caucasian. So all those can be selected. In terms of if it is a woman patient, I can tell if she is having a gestation period, if she is pregnant, when was the last menstrual period. All those things can be covered in this details of the patient. I can also enter the history of the patient. So I can type about various using the Medra dictionary. So if I want to say again fever, and if I type, I select it from Medra, I can select and search fever using the latest version of my dictionary, which is the 24th version right now of Medra. And Medra is released twice in a year, once in March and then in September, 1st of every March, right? So this is the latest version which we will tell you how to code a term. So if we get fever, we can code that, and you can see here that it will organize it according to the system organ class. So I can select the term and it gets auto coded. So this is the grayed out field which is auto coded, right, using the latest version of Medra, which is 24th. Now we can type when the event has started, whether it is ongoing, when it has stopped, and if there is any family history, we can write any comments if we want to. So all those things are possible. And if he has been treated in the past, if he had maybe paracetamol, so we can type that. We can code it via the dictionary as well. All those things are possible in the history. Again, I can go into the if it is a patient who is a small child, I can enter the parent details of the parent, gender, and all other details about the parent. Similarly, what is the reaction or the event that has happened? So I can again code it with Medra about whatever event has happened. If there is again maybe urticaria or Stevens-Johnson syndrome, I can select that via the Medra. Then I can also enter the lab tests which have been done, various whether it is a physical examination, or there is a maybe blood pressure monitoring, or there is all other lab investigations like the complete blood count and the LFT and KFT. So all those liver function tests and kidney function tests, they all can be coded. I can enter the test name in free text as well. I can code it via Medra. So it will go into again investigations. I can select the results, whether they are positive, negative, borderline, and then I can also write the normal and the reference ranges for that test result, right? So all those can be done, and then I can select a product name. So I can enter the product details of whatever product is there, whether it is again a company product or it is a non-company product. So I can enter all those details about the product with the invented name or the scientific name, that is the the active ingredient, the strength, the formulation, then all the other names which are there for the device, which country it is approved, authorization, all those things can be entered in this field, and what is the dose taken, all those other things, whether the product is continued or it is discontinued. So all those things can be entered on the action taken with the product, right? Whether it is withdrawn or the dose has been changed. So I can write and select that, and then I can book the case. So all those things are possible in this database, right? And so once I have saved the case, I showed you that in the view it will have the case ID created for a particular case. So then I can look at that in my list of cases. I have various other functionalities that I can do. I can create reports specific for submission to the regulatory authority, where I would want to create maybe the periodic benefit safety update reports, which is the aggregate reports. So I have the PBRER or the PADER or the DSUR or the periodic safety update report, right? Okay, so that's it from my side. I think we are done with our session. If you have any queries, please, you are free to write them in the chat box. And thanks for your attention and your time. Okay.
Thank you, Gaurav sir. Now I invite our placement corporate head, Mr. Rahul Malia. Rahul sir, you're there?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Vinayak.
Good morning, sir. You can start the session.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'll tell you what we do in the placement department. Actually, we train the students for giving the successful interviews, and our